Chair of Urban Warfare Studies at the Modern War Institute. John, thank you for being with us this morning. Sinwar was believed to be in hiding in Gaza's tunnels. I know you've been in some of those tunnels. What are they like?
I mean, it's the worst environment you'd ever want to be in. And the fact that he has been living like a rat in them for 12 months. But, when I was in those tunnels, from December, even in July, it was just the feeling of what the hostages are going through this whole time as we've been watching this unfold on our TV screens day to day. But I think this could be the beginning of the end. Getting those responsible for October 7th, the Hamas senior leadership, the mastermind of the attack, and vowing to continue the attacks until Israel is destroyed is very important to strategically being able to see an end to this, as you were just talking about. So I think it's if this is true, it's massive turning point.
I was just keep thinking about last week, the mother of Hirsch Golden Poland, who was talking about how her son, had his arm, because one of the arms was literally blown off during the October 7th massacre when Hamas took him, that he, was essentially had lost most of his body weight. I'm just thinking that's the life in these tunnels for the hostages.
Absolutely. As somebody who studies underground warfare, just the psychological trauma of being underground with no lights, breathing in, they had bottles that they were urinating in, buckets they were having to go to the bathroom in, living on top of each other. It's inhumane. It's disgusting that it's continued this long. So this should be a call from the global community to let them go now, and especially this turning point. Yahya was one of the persons who refused the ceasefire deals, no matter what Israel agreed to. So it's both a promising day, but also an understanding of what these hostages are going through in those tunnels, to include Americans.
And Hirsch Goldberg Poland was one of those Americans, and there are still 100+ hostages that we know not of their fate. And I'm just wondering, what do you think? And it was interesting to hear from what we were, just having this conversation this hour, how in some ways Sinwar could be considered the Israeli version of Osama bin Laden's threats, in the sense that for Israel, Sinwar was essentially the Osama bin Laden. And what's the significance of the fact that he may have very well been killed?
I mean, it's huge, and I agree that that's a really good analogy as how the ideal of Al Qaeda existed beyond Osama, but it was a closure for a nation, that the people that did the horrific attack of 9/11, and for this, the horrific attack of October 7th, there is a strategic element of that for a nation to even be able to proceed forward, even start the healing process, to know that this person who did this attack, who masterminded it all, was still existing in Gaza, using his own population as human sacrifices. I mean, why Rafah in the Al-Mawasi humanitarian zone, shielding themselves? I think it's an immense closure, if true. But also for me, as a strategist, somebody who studies war and the strategy of where this is going, what's next, that it could be a massive turning point for Israel and for helping the Palestinian people who are suffering under Hamas's evil rule.
How? I mean, what is there in all of this to give you the hope that anything positive could come from this, when we're talking about an organization that in its creating documents, right? It was changed later, but in its creating document talked about the elimination of Israel and the elimination of Jews.
Yeah. So I mean, I 100% agree with you. This is the recognition that strategically Hamas could not be allowed to survive in any form, militarily with the ability to harm Israel, and that's pretty much been taken away from them, but also politically, and that's the ideology. But the elimination of this top tier hierarchy of this radical death cult is the fact that you can have other local Palestinian leaders who say, we don't want this anymore. We actually do want progress for our people. And the de-radicalization can begin, and the establishment of a new government can begin. So I think it is a sign of hope that there can be something else other than Hamas in Gaza. The ideal will still always be there, and there are evil ideals all around the world still, but they don't have military power and political power over a territory, over a people. That this could lead to a much better situation, even for the Palestinian people who are suffering under Hamas's use of them as human sacrifices.
Yeah, but John, let's not forget that the biggest sponsor of all of this is not there. It's not in Rafah. It's not in Gaza. It's not in Hezbollah. It's not in Lebanon. It's in Tehran and the regime there since 1979.
100%. The Islamic regime in Iran is the head of the octopus. No matter what, this isn't even religious, right? Shia versus Sunni. Absolutely, that has to be dealt with. The foreign policy insanity of just keep giving them money, hoping that they'll change their ways. But I think Israel, with the United States' assistance, by the way, is doing massive efforts to change this whole framework that has been allowed to go on for decades. The fact that Hezbollah is being pushed back, that it has been dismembered as well. The Houthis, CENTCOM just attacked the Houthis. This is a situation that has been created by a lot of nations. And yes, if the Islamic regime in Iran doesn't change its behavior of using proxies to attack Israel and the United States and the global shipping lanes, everything, then yes, this cycle of violence will continue. But taking Hamas, taking Hezbollah off their tool set is a part of the process.
John Spencer, I thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And joining